What's up YouTube, Carboss here, back in another video where we talk about cards, money, investing. Today we're going to talk about eBay, right? So eBay, perhaps the largest marketplace, at least for trading cards is concerned around the world, right? And if you're not selling on eBay, means that you're potentially missing out on millions of eyeballs or potential customers, right? So however, these audiences of course come at a cost, of which eBay's hefty selling fees, which is pretty debatable. And in today's video, we're going to explore about the 3 different selling mechanics that's available on eBay, and to figure out which one might suit you in selling your cards on this mega marketplace. All right, let's go. So first, a little background, right? eBay started a bit more than 25 years ago as one of the first online marketplace back in 1995. And I was already a user of eBay since year 2000, but things has drastically changed quite a fair bit in the last 20 years. User experience has definitely gone up on eBay, and of course the number of active users globally has grown tremendously. But of course, as time goes by, we become more and more reliant on its services, right? And its cost structure obviously has gone up and evolved numerous times, and that with it, of course, fees and costs, which has been a lot of debate on eBay's rising fees, right? But in a nutshell, today, if you're selling on eBay, it costs roughly about 15% overall, and that's what they take off the top for selling your cards. And some of you may be saying, that's a pretty hefty amount. It's not something that you would even want to entertain or even go near that, and therefore this is perhaps not the avenue for you. But for people like myself and operating internationally, eBay is a platform that we have to use regularly, and we kind of like rely on it, so it's something that we have to accept. So, but in this video, we're not going to talk about debate on about fees and things like that. We're just going to talk about the 3 different mechanics that I use on eBay, as well as what are the differences between each of these mechanics, and whether or not how are they going to be applicable to you, and what's the best way to maximize the efficiency of each of these mechanics, and consider that as part of your selling strategies on eBay. So this is pretty straightforward, right? You like it, you buy it, right? And you pay for it. No fuss, no hassle. And that's why a lot of people, with hundreds and hundreds of listings go for this option. But there's of course a number of downsides, right? So first, if you price your cards a bit too high, you lose out on potential customers, right? Who basically just undercut, other listings just basically undercut your price tag. You price it too low, you don't get upside. If there was a price uptick, due to impromptu situations, like for example, Jason Tatum scoring 50 points, or the new trailer of X-Men gets released, right? So all these kind of like shift prices temporarily and cause a surge, certain cards that you may own, and you don't get the upside on this particular surge, as people just snap on whatever price that you put into there. But with most fixed price listings, right, you have all your profit elements already inbuilt into the price. So even though you may lose some of the upside, but at least you lock in those profits, secure those profits when you actually make those sales. So, but do of course keep in mind when you're pricing cards with fixed price, you can also undercut the market, right? So you can see what's the current selling prices, and you could just go in directly at a lower price. And people generally will search, for a particular card they're looking after. They generally search what's the cheapest one available at the buy now options, and your listing will come up to the top. So pin that thought for a moment as we discuss to the next few mechanics. Now, the best offer method, it's kind of like the preferred mechanic for most trading card sellers, right? You price something high and even sometimes astronomical, right? And wait for someone to just basically throw in an offer, and negotiations will start from there. In an ideal situation, that's what you like to happen, but in many cases, the opening absurd price sometimes can scare people off, or open the door to massive lowballing action. Even though sometimes you find opening price seems very reasonable, but you still get all the lowball actions going on. I'll just give you an example. Say you had a Kobe card, right? That's $50, right? And some people would price this card at $100 or best offer, with the expectation that somebody would come in and maybe quote an offer for about $50, which is about 50%. That's general rule about having the best offers. Now, if someone were to offer a bit higher, let's say 60, that's great. It's higher than the amount that you set, the minimum target that you set for yourself. and you get a little upside of that $10 upside, right? But of course, if you open at a $100 range, expecting people to offer you at 50, you also can get people, offer you ridiculous prices at 20, for example, and that can completely waste people's time. And that's why people set that minimum bid amount, the minimum fixed reserve price amount, which I think deters some buyers occasionally. So for me personally, I don't like setting a minimum, and I just gotta entertain this so-called lowball bids, and we just hit a very simple decline button, and of course, any buyer will have only opportunity of 5 tries, right? Just 5 times to try and make the best offers. But you get the point, right? You don't like this time wasting going back and forth, right? So eventually, if you are pretty set on selling a card at $50, right? So what's stopping you from doing it as a fixed price? Just bid at 50 and take the profit for that particular amount. Or why set a best offer and then risk wasting time back and forth, or even scaring away potential customers? So this theory, which I explained, who works for cards which has high population, right? So that's where high population you want to go for buy now as opposed to best offer. Low pop cards is the one that you want to target for best offers, because there's a huge, sometimes low pop cards don't get transacted very often, so therefore sometimes there's a huge time lapse between the transacted prices from one month to the other. So this is a juncture whereby buyer and seller can meet somewhere in between to determine what price they're comfortable with. There's a range that you guys can work with, but occasionally this comes up to be a kind of like a cat and mouse game, whereby the buyer is not willing to put through the first offer, and you as a seller, wanting to maximize the return, so you place a very high ceiling price on the card, right? So, and which, like I said, can scare people off. So pricing best offers, to me has been the greatest challenge, in my many years of listing cards on eBay. Okay, auction. So here's the fun part, right? Let the market decide. Right now, we're gonna talk about shield bidding, and all of that. Let's just assume that the market plays its part normally, and prices go up and go down, based on demand, and that's where the market believes that a certain price will land. But I want to remind you a couple of things, right? The concept of market price, right, is determined on at what point in time that particular auction ends, right? As well as how many people were following the auction, watching the auction, or even bidding on the auction itself. So, if let's say, there is an invisible audience, for Spider-Man cards. Let's say there is 5,000 people who love Spider-Man cards, or for that particular card. But at that point in time, there's only 20 people who's watching that particular listing on the particular auction at a given point in time. It's hard to confidently say that whatever the price that particular card lands represents the market price overall, right? Because it's just roughly about 20 people looking at that card at that point in time, and not the general entire population or the market, as you presume to be looking at that card, and you call it market price. But no doubt, of course, people use these prices as comps, as comparatives, because auction, then again, people deem it as market prices. But you guys know, right? It's all relative towards where in point in time that particular auction ends. So if you have an auction ending on a weird hours, 3 a.m. in the morning, right? If the price ends up low, don't be surprised that it ends up low, and then don't assume that that's the new floor, or that's a new market price, because it just kind of ended on a weird time. So there's just little nicks that you kind of need to pay attention when you're looking at market prices, and that's why when I look at market prices, I always tend to go to the last few auctions that's ended, average price between each of them, and just to get whatever the actual prices. So, and then I'll take into account the time gaps between when these listings actually end. Is it by weeks or by days, or is it by months, right? So sometimes it's quite funny when I get those private messages on eBay, saying that, hey, I want to make an offer to you for $1,000 for this card that you have, and the last auction closing price was $1,100. But I said, hang on, that last price, right? The two transacted prices before the $1,100 price was $1,300 and $1,400. I'm making all these numbers up, right? So the markets, you're saying that the market has come down, and the last price is the market price, and you're offering me a price that's lower than the last market price. So what's that? What does that mean, right? So I'll probably tell you, say, I'm not sorry, that's not it's not going that way. I feel that the market price should be an average between the 1100 to 1400. And I'll probably tell you, what if, let's say, the next one sells at 1500, right? So does that mean that that's the new market price? And say, hey, do you want to buy my car now for 1500? Obviously you're not going to say yes, right? You'll probably say no, thank you, right? So even though with this auction data, there's a lot of subjectivity to it, but coming back to why you should use auctions over fixed price or best offer, well, the pro is that certainly the car will sell. Now, of course, what price it sells for is anyone's guess, but it will sell. Now, getting paid is a different story, right? Because you've heard stories of unpaid items and things like that, but it's often that if you want to put a car out there, and you don't want to think much about it, that's auctions is generally the way to go, whether you list it yourself or you go through consignment, right? But the right mindset when you put into auction, whether it's eBay or is it PPCC or Goldin, right? It's just to whatever, right? Just put it out there and just get whatever price. Don't think about the profit elements, don't think about the loss elements, right? Of course, you hope for the best, but it's generally not the best way for you to get the most out of your car. It's something that you're not sure what you're doing, so therefore you just toss it at auction and let the market decide on what price you should get paid for. So there you go, right? The three different mechanics on selling your cars on eBay. There's no one correct answer on which you should be using. In fact, you should be using a combination of all. Personally, as what I mentioned earlier, I use best offer for rarer cars, or cars with low pop or don't get transacted often, whereby there's more subjectivity to the pricing, as well as there's more room for negotiation between the buyer and the seller. Fixed price listings are for stuff that I'm comfortable earning just a fixed margin, so 10%, 15%, right? Whatever it is, right? I'm not thinking about so much about the upside already. So generally these are more high pop cars, and cars are on the medium term price range, maybe between the $100 to $500, right? And finally, there's auctions, right, for everything else basically, where it doesn't really matter what the final price is, profit or loss, it doesn't really matter. The main goal for me personally is to clear off excess inventory. Alright, hope you guys got something out of this video, and do subscribe to this channel for more content in the future. Thanks for watching, guys. Carboys out.